My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes when people try to break you, when they humiliate you, when they walk away as if you don't matter, you begin to wonder if Allah has forgotten you. But tonight, this message is for the one who's been quietly crying, silently hurting, yet still holding on to Allah. This is your sign that your Rabb has already begun lifting you. And soon, the very people who tried to bring you down will witness a rise they cannot explain. When they push you down, Allah prepares a rise they can't block. My beloved brother, my dear sister, sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones you trusted the most. The ones you would have done anything for. The ones you always included, always thought of, always defended. And yet, they're the ones who push you down. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, silently. Sometimes they do it with words, harsh, cold, calculated. Sometimes they do it with silence, ignoring your presence as if you never mattered. Sometimes they do it with looks, as if you've become invisible overnight, and you're left standing there with a heart full of questions. What did I do wrong? Why do they treat me like I'm a burden? What changed? And the shaitan uses these moments to whisper lies to you, that you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that you've fallen and you'll never rise again. But let me tell you something your soul needs to hear tonight. Just because someone pushed you down doesn't mean Allah has left you there. In fact, sometimes the push is not a punishment, it's a positioning. Yes, read that again. It's not your downfall, it's your divine placement. You see, when people remove you from their life, when they push you out of circles, groups, plans, events, it feels like rejection. But in reality, it might just be protection. Because Allah sees what you can't. He hears what they say when you're not there. He knows the energy behind the smiles and the truth behind the silence. And sometimes the people who push you down are unknowingly pushing you into the exact position Allah needs you to be in before He raises you. It's like a bow and arrow. The more you're pulled back, the further you fly forward. They think you're falling behind, but Allah is setting you up for a rise they'll never understand. And when that moment comes, when Allah lifts you in a way no one saw coming, it won't be because of who stood beside you. It won't be because of your connections or their approval. It'll be because Allah never left you. He was always there, even when no one else was. He was there when you cried on the prayer mat with no words left. He was there when your chest felt heavy, walking past people who used to care. He was there when you stayed silent through the insults, when you wanted to scream but chose Sabr instead. And that silence, that patience, that heartbreak, none of it was ignored. Every tear was recorded. Every humiliation was noted. Every broken moment is now being stitched back together by the one who knows how to repair hearts better than anyone else. Because when Allah decides to lift you, He does it with such grace, such beauty, such precision, that even those who look down on you will be left in awe. They'll look at you and ask, how did he rise? How did she recover? How did they become so peaceful, so honored, so strong? And they won't know, because they didn't see the nights you cried alone. They didn't hear the du'as you whispered when you had no one else to turn to. They didn't feel the pain you carried or the weight you bore in silence. They only saw you broken, but Allah saw you patient. And that is why you will rise, not in arrogance, not in revenge, but in silent honor, in quiet strength, in a peace that can only come from knowing that Allah is enough. So if they pushed you down, say Alhamdulillah, because perhaps they were never meant to lift you. Perhaps it was never their job to understand you, because your story was always in the hands of the one who created you. And when He lifts you, no one can pull you back down. Not a soul, not a word, not a lie, nothing. So breathe deeply tonight. You're not being forgotten. You're being prepared. Not for them to clap for you, but for Allah to honor you in His way and in His time. And when that happens, you won't rise alone. You'll rise with peace. You'll rise with dignity. And you'll rise with the quiet power of someone who trusted only Allah. When you're not invited, it's because Allah reserved a higher gathering for you. You keep asking yourself, why didn't they invite me? Why was I the only one not included? And you scroll through their posts, you see the smiles, the celebrations, and your heart quietly sinks. You didn't even want much, just a little space, just a little remembrance. But your name was left out, not by accident, but on purpose. And I know it hurts, because you were always the one who remembered them. You never forgot their moments. You never failed to show up when they needed you. You always tried to make space for them in your time, in your heart, in your du'as. And now, suddenly, you feel like you've been erased, as if you were never really part of the picture to begin with. And in that moment, the shaitan begins to whisper, you're not wanted. You're not good enough. You're always the outsider. But let me stop you there, my brother, my sister. Let me remind you of something your heart may have forgotten. Sometimes being left out is Allah's greatest protection. Sometimes when you're not invited, it's because He didn't want you to sit at a table that was never clean to begin with. He didn't want your heart around hearts that speak well in public but carry poison in private. He didn't want your soul to become attached to a gathering that would one day drain you. Allah removes you not to isolate you, but to elevate you. He empties the space around you so He can refill it with something better. Don't you remember the story of Maryam alayhi salam? She was removed from her people, isolated in worship, alone in pain. But in that hidden place, she was honored in ways the world still remembers today. Sometimes Allah hides you from gatherings because the one He has written for you is greater, more sincere, more pure, more filled with barakah. Maybe you were not invited because your name is being written in gatherings of angels. Maybe you were not included because Allah included you in His mercy instead. People see crowds, but Allah sees hearts. And not every gathering full of people is blessed. And not every lonely soul is forgotten. Some of the most remembered souls in the heavens were the most left out on earth. Some of the most elevated hearts were the most excluded by people. So tonight, as you feel that emptiness in your chest, as you sit there wondering why no one thought of you, know that Allah has not stopped thinking of you for even a second. He saw the moment you checked your phone, hoping for a message that never came. He saw the way your eyes dropped when they walked past you without greeting. He saw the silent disappointment you tried to hide behind a smile. And He says in the Qur'an, indeed, those who believe and do good deeds, the most merciful will appoint for them love. Surah Maryam, 1996. You will be remembered by the right people. You will be honored in the right spaces. You just have to hold on a little longer. Because the gatherings of the dunya come and go. But the gatherings written by Allah last forever. So tonight, don't cry over the tables that rejected you. Don't break your heart over the events, the circles, the groups, the friends that closed their doors. Because your Lord, He's preparing a better invitation. One that doesn't require popularity. One that doesn't need a perfect photo. One that doesn't need you to shrink yourself to fit in. He's preparing a table where your presence will be wanted. Your heart will be safe. And your name will be honored. Not because of what you gave the world, but because of what you gave Him in private. That loyalty, that patience, that softness you refused to kill even when people hardened around you. That's what He's seen. And that's why when you weren't invited by them, you were being chosen by Him. And my dear, that is the highest gathering you could ever hope to belong to. They tried to bury you, but Allah was growing you in secret. You thought it was over, didn't you? When they turned their backs on you, when they shut the door and walked away like you never mattered, when they smiled while burying you under silence, gossip, rejection and blame, you thought that was the end of your story. You thought that was your fall. But my brother, my sister, it wasn't your fall. It was your planting. Yes, you were not buried to die. You were buried to grow. Because what people don't understand is that when Allah wants to elevate someone, He sometimes begins the process by hiding them, by covering them, by letting them sit in silence, in confusion, in darkness. Why? Because that's where growth happens. In the unseen, in the quiet, in the places where people forget you, but Allah never stops nurturing you. Think of a seed. Before it becomes a tree, before it blooms into something beautiful, it is buried. It is pushed into the soil, covered, crushed by dirt, surrounded by darkness. And from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But on the inside, Subhanallah, that seed is going through a transformation no one can see. It is breaking. It is softening. It is unlocking life that was hidden inside it all along. And eventually, with time, with warmth, with water, it begins to rise. And when it breaks through the surface, when it finally blooms, the same world that ignored it now looks at it in awe. That is you. What you're going through, it's not punishment. It's a divine process. They thought they erased you. But they didn't realize they were placing you exactly where Allah wanted you to begin again. They called you done. But Allah was saying, now we begin. Remember Yusuf alayhi salam, his own brothers threw him into a well. They walked away and lied about him. He was sold, used, forgotten. Years passed. People saw him as a slave, as a problem, as a name without worth. But Allah saw him as a future king, as a man of honor, as someone the entire nation would one day turn to in their time of need. And all of that began after they tried to bury him. That well, that darkness, that betrayal, it didn't stop his story. It started his story. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for you. Maybe the ones who betrayed you actually pushed you into your purpose. Maybe that rejection was your redirection. Maybe the heartbreak was what softened your heart enough to finally hear Allah clearly. Maybe being left out was Allah clearing space around you to plant a garden within you. Because sometimes Allah hides you not to punish you, but to protect you. And sometimes Allah grows you in secret so that when the world sees you rise, they know it wasn't luck, it wasn't people, it wasn't fame, it was only Him. You see, when people are the reason you rise, they take credit. They try to control you. They try to remind you of what they did for you. But when Allah is the reason you rise, no one can claim it. No one can block it. No one can take it from you. Because He wrote your name in places their eyes could never reach. He saw you when no one else was looking. He believed in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. He whispered to your soul when the world shouted at your flaws. And now, He is slowly, silently, powerfully lifting you. And soon, those who buried you will look again and they will see something they don't recognize. Not because you changed to prove them wrong, but because Allah changed you to become who you were always meant to be. And here's the most beautiful part. You didn't have to force it. You didn't have to chase anyone. You didn't need revenge. All you needed was sabr and trust in the one who never wastes a single tear. So if you feel like you've been buried by life, take a deep breath, smile through your pain and say, Ya Allah, if this is planting, then I'm ready to bloom. Because what's coming is not your downfall. It's your becoming. And when you rise, you won't rise alone. You'll rise with light in your heart and the quiet victory of someone who chose faith over fear. They took everything they could, but they couldn't take what was written. Sometimes it feels like they took everything from you. Your peace, your reputation, your space in their life, your sense of worth. They took your trust and shattered it. They took your kindness and made you feel like a fool for giving it. They took your silence as weakness, your loyalty as blindness. And when they left, they made it look like you were the problem. And it hurts. It hurts more than words can describe. Because you weren't pretending. You gave them the real you. You offered your sincerity. You offered your time, your love, your dua. Even when they stopped giving anything back. And now you're standing here alone, carrying the weight of what they took and what they made others think about you. And your heart quietly asks, is there anything left of me? What do I even have now? But my dear brother, my beloved sister, please listen to this carefully. They may have taken a lot from you, but there's one thing they couldn't take. What was written for you by Allah. Because what Allah writes is not written with ink. It's written with His qadr. And the pen of His decree never runs dry. What is meant for you will never go to someone else. Even if they try, even if they lie, even if they make you look small so they can look big, even if they surround themselves with people who believe their version of the story, they still cannot take what was already stamped by the King of Kings. Yes, they might take your position, but not your provision. They might ruin your image in people's eyes, but they cannot touch your status with Allah. And that is the only status that truly matters. You see, people think they have power because they can exclude you from a group, or because they can block an opportunity, or turn people against you. But Allah is the one who says, indeed your Lord is the provider, the possessor of firm strength. Surah Ad-Dariyat 51, 58. He doesn't need anyone's permission to bless you. He doesn't need a perfect reputation or approval ratings to honor you. In fact, sometimes He allows people to take things from you so you can finally receive what He wants to give you without distraction. So, yes, maybe they walked away with pieces of your peace. Maybe they threw dirt on your name when all you gave them was dignity. But the story didn't end there. Because what they took, Allah will replace. And what they tried to ruin, Allah can rebuild better. And what they whispered behind your back, Allah heard it. And what you cried to Him about in secret, Allah recorded it. And when the time comes, when Allah lifts you, when He gives you what they said you'd never have, when He places barakah in your life in ways they can't explain, they will know They will know that nothing they did could block what was written for you. And you won't rise out of revenge. You won't shine out of arrogance. You'll rise with humility, because you'll know it wasn't their approval that brought you here. It was Allah's mercy. They said you were done, but you were just being redirected. They thought they ended your story, but Allah was turning the page. And on this new page, there's something beautiful written just for you. Written before you were even born. Written when your soul was still in the heavens. Written by the one who knew every betrayal before it happened and still chose to honor you after it all. So hold your head up, not because you're proud, but because you're protected. Smile not because it doesn't hurt, but because you survived it. And breathe knowing that no matter what they took, they can never take away what was always meant to reach you. Not your rizq, not your honor, not your healing, not your future. Because all of that was written by Ar-Rahman. And when He writes it for you, no one can erase it. Your silent sujood has more power than their loudest insults. They said things about you, loudly, cruelly, repeatedly, sometimes directly, sometimes behind your back, sometimes in public, sometimes in private messages they thought you'd never see. They mocked your sincerity. They twisted your words. They turned your kindness into weakness. And they made others laugh at your expense. And you said nothing. You didn't argue. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't fight for the last word. You just lowered your gaze, took a deep breath, and walked away. Not because you didn't have words to say, but because you had a place to go that they don't know. You had a secret place. A place where the floor welcomes your forehead, where the world becomes silent, and only your soul speaks. That place is your sujood. And tonight, I want to remind you of something sacred. One silent sajda carries more weight in the heavens than 1,000 words spoken against you on earth. They may have insulted you, but you responded with silence. They may have embarrassed you, but you responded with sabr. They may have spoken about you to people, but you spoke to Allah in whispers they'll never hear. And that is power. That is not weakness. That is not defeat. That is victory in its purest form. Because when you fall into sujood, you're not collapsing, you're rising, you're not hiding, you're healing, and you're not alone. Every time you placed your forehead on the ground, with your heart quietly crying, Ya Allah, they said things about me, you know it, you saw it, you heard it, and I'm leaving it to you. Do you think Allah didn't hear that? Do you think He doesn't answer the du'as that are soaked in tears? Do you think He ignores the ones who come to Him not with loud voices, but with silent desperation? My dear brother, my sister, the most powerful du'as are not always the loudest. Some of them are broken whispers that only Allah hears in sujood. And every time you went down, feeling like the world above you had crushed you, it was in that exact moment that the doors of the heavens were opening above your head. The Prophet ﷺ said, the closest a servant is to his Lord is when he is in sujood. Sahih Muslim. So what does that mean? It means that when they insulted you, you actually came closer to Allah. They thought they were lowering you, but in reality, they were pushing you into the most elevated position a human can be in. Sujood. The angels record the insults, but Allah records your response. And He rewards the restraint of a tongue that could have fired back but chose sabr instead. Do you think Allah is unaware of the pain you held inside? He is Al-Sami, the one who hears even what you never say out loud. He is Al-Basir, the one who sees the moment you hold back tears just to not embarrass yourself in front of others. And He is Al-Hakim, the one who allows you to be humiliated so He can raise you without the help of a single soul. So let them speak, let them laugh, let them post what they want, twist what they want, believe what they want. Because every time you choose sujood over shouting, you are writing your legacy in the heavens. A legacy built not on claps or likes, but on sincerity. And when Allah honors someone for their sujood, He does it in such a way that the same people who once looked down on them are forced to look up, and they won't understand how. They won't understand why. Because they never saw the real source of your strength. They never saw the sajdas you made at 2 a.m. when your heart was broken. They never saw the way your hands shook as you made dua in the dark. They never heard you say, Ya Allah, just take care of me. But Allah heard it all. And He's been responding ever since. Sometimes by removing people, sometimes by delaying answers to grow your soul, and sometimes by preparing a rise so beautiful that it makes every insult worth it. So tonight, don't cry because of what they said. Cry in sujood, because you still have somewhere to go where no one can touch you. Your heart belongs to the one who wrote your name before anyone could speak it. And your sujood is your direct line to Him. No approval needed, no explanation required, just you and your Lord. And my dear, that is more powerful than any insult spoken with a loud tongue and a small heart. Even the Prophet ﷺ was humiliated before Allah raised him. You feel like you've been humiliated, like people have stepped on your dignity, like your name doesn't carry weight anymore. They've looked at you differently, spoken to you like you don't matter, spread things about you that aren't even true. And sometimes they didn't even need to speak. Their silence was enough. Their absence was enough. Their laughter when you walked away was enough. And maybe now you've started believing that your worth has been lost, that your value has disappeared, that you've been reduced to someone who's easy to mock, easy to dismiss, easy to forget. But let me remind you of something sacred tonight, something that will change the way you carry this pain. Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the most beloved of all creation, the most honored human to ever walk this earth, the man chosen by Allah Himself, was humiliated. Let that settle into your heart for a moment. Even he was humiliated. The same man who was known as As-Sadiq, the truthful, Al-Amin, the trustworthy, was suddenly being called a liar, a magician, a madman, a poet, a fake. They laughed at him, mocked his message, mocked his words, mocked his face. They placed filth on his back while he was in sujood. They threw stones at his noble feet in Ta'if until they bled. They told him he had no sons, that his lineage was cut off. They insulted his family, his faith, his mission. And what did he do? Did he scream? Did he curse? Did he give up? No. He turned to Allah. He cried in the night. He walked away from the people who hurt him, but he never walked away from his Lord. And what did Allah do for him? Did Allah abandon him? Did Allah delay him? Never. In fact, right after some of the most painful moments in his life, Allah raised him. Did we not expand for you your chest? And we removed from you your burden. And we raised for you your mention. Surah Ash-Shar 94:14. The same mouth that once mocked him now says Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Not once, not twice, but billions of times, every single day, every prayer, every khutbah, every corner of the globe. His name is mentioned next to the name of Allah. This is what it looks like when Allah honors someone after the world tries to humiliate them. This is what it looks like when Allah lifts the one who stayed patient. So if you've been laughed at, so if they tried to make you feel small, so if you've been humiliated for your faith, your mistakes, your healing, your journey, you're not weak. You're walking in the footsteps of the greatest man to ever live. You're experiencing what he experienced so that you too can be prepared for what he was given. Because sometimes Allah allows you to taste the sting of people's cruelty so you can become stronger in your closeness to him. The Prophet ﷺ didn't become honored because the world accepted him. He became honored because he remained loyal to Allah even when the world rejected him. And maybe, just maybe, the same is happening with you. Maybe Allah allowed them to mock you so He could elevate you without needing them. Maybe the humiliation they tried to cause will become the exact reason Allah opens doors for you that no one can shut. Maybe the brokenness you feel now is the same brokenness that made our Prophet ﷺ raise his hands in ta'if and say, "Oh Allah, if you are not displeased with me, then I do not care." That's not weakness. That's love. That's loyalty. That's the sound of someone who trusts Allah more than they fear the world. And I want you to know something. The more you walk this path with Allah, the lonelier it may feel at first. But the honor that comes from it, the peace, the strength, the quiet glow in your heart that says Allah knows, that is priceless. So tonight, as you think about the people who humiliated you, who laughed at your change, who mocked your faith, who made you feel like you'll never rise again, I want you to remember, you follow the one who was laughed at before he was loved. You follow the one who was insulted before he was honored. You follow the one who was rejected before the world could never forget his name again. And if Allah honored him, He can honor you too. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove yourself. You just need patience, tears in sujood, and sincerity in your heart. And soon, the same people who look down on you will see the light in your life that they didn't believe could ever come. And you will rise not because of them, but because of the one who never left you. What they meant to break you became the fire that refined you. That betrayal, that rejection, that heartbreak, it didn't break you. It burned away what was never meant to be part of your next chapter. You didn't fall apart. You fell into who you were meant to become. The humiliation you felt became your mirror. The loneliness you endured became your strength. You were never ruined. You were being rebuilt. If you're hearing this, it means Allah has already started lifting you. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Let your heart be still. Because you didn't land here by accident. You didn't randomly scroll and stop here. You didn't hear these words by chance. This was written for you. Yes, you. The one who's been tired lately. The one who keeps showing up for others but feels empty inside. The one who smiles in front of people but cries alone in the quiet. The one who keeps asking, when will things change? When will Allah lift me? When will the weight on my chest finally go away? Tonight I want you to hear this with your soul. If you're hearing this message right now, it means Allah has already started lifting you. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening. Because the very fact that your heart is still soft, that you're still searching for Him, still turning back even after falling 100 times, that means He hasn't let go of you. In fact, He's been carrying you quietly through every moment you thought you were walking alone. You didn't survive that pain by your own strength. You didn't hold back the tears because you were fearless. You're still standing because He held you when everything else let go. And now He's calling you closer. That's what this moment is. This is not content. This is a divine reminder, a whisper, a soft tap on your heart, as if Allah is saying, "My servant, I saw every silent battle you fought. I saw the nights you stayed awake, not knowing who to talk to. I heard the du'as you made with trembling lips and a breaking voice. I never left you. I was preparing your rise." Because here's the truth, most people don't understand. Lifting doesn't always look like success. Sometimes lifting looks like loss. Sometimes it looks like heartbreak. Sometimes it looks like isolation. Sometimes it looks like the world walking away and your soul learning to walk toward Allah instead. You see, Allah lifts in silence. He lifts with mercy. He lifts with delays. He lifts in ways that cleanse your heart before He gives you the life you ask for. So if things feel slow, if things feel like nothing is changing, please don't be fooled. Something is changing. Your patience is becoming stronger. Your du'as are becoming deeper. Your love for Allah is no longer based on what He gives, but on who He is. That shift alone, that is the lifting. Because when Allah wants to raise someone, He doesn't always change their situation first. He changes their vision. He clears the fog. He removes the distractions. He allows the pain to melt away the illusions. And then He shows you who you really are. Someone stronger than the rejection. Someone bigger than the betrayal. Someone more valuable than the lies. Someone who can still fall into sujood with a broken heart and whisper, "Alhamdulillah." That is real lifting. And you're in the middle of it. That's why you're still here. That's why, despite everything, you're still trying, still listening, still seeking, still holding on to your faith, even if it's with trembling fingers. You don't need a grand sign from the sky. This moment is the sign, this reminder. Reaching your ears at this exact second is proof that Allah sees you. Proof that He hasn't forgotten your name. Proof that your soul is still connected to its Lord no matter how many times you've slipped. And here's what you must never forget. Allah doesn't lift the proud. He lifts the broken-hearted. He doesn't raise the arrogant. He raises the one who cried at night and said, "Ya Allah, I have no one but You." And if that was you, then your lifting has already begun. It may still be quiet. It may still be behind the scenes. But soon, He will raise you in a way that even you won't understand. You'll look back one day and realize that every delay, every silence, every pain was not Allah abandoning you. It was Allah rewriting your story. And the chapter you're about to walk into, it will be one of healing, of honor, of divine peace. Not because everything in life becomes perfect, but because you'll finally know that Allah was with you even when you didn't feel it. So tonight, stop doubting. Wipe your tears and whisper from your heart, "Ya Allah, I trust Your plan even when I don't understand it." Because if you're hearing this now, it means your soul still belongs to the one who can lift you in ways no one else can. And when He lifts you, no one will be able to look away. My beloved brothers and sisters, they may have laughed at you. They may have lied about you. They may have walked away when you needed them most. But they forgot one thing. You were never alone, because the one who created you, the one who shaped your soul, has always been watching. And when He lifts you, no lie can stop it. No insult can erase it. No rejection can delay it. So walk gently now, because your rise has already begun. And soon, those who once looked down on you will witness what happens when Allah honors someone who stayed close to Him, even when the world turned away.